gonna start the live stream.
Let's go.
Yep, and we should be live soon.
I see the note here. I'm just giving okay. So custom live stream service. I believe we're live. Sister, it's November 6th,
November 6th.
Wednesday. Very important today
Very important day for the world.
for the world, but
A
we're
lot
not
of
here
things
to
happening.
talk about any of those topics. We're here to talk
Thank
about
God, no.
better November.
Yeah.
Just being better November.
We're just talking about good things today, and I love that. No controversy, no issues, just happiness, experimentation,
And becoming better.
becoming better. Exactly.
So you want to kick off? You've done lives before,
Yeah.
so you're the one leading the way here.
Yeah. Vlad, okay for us to kick off already?
Yeah,
Yes, ready to go.
Okay.
3 minutes in.
3 minutes in.
Let's just start with the quick agenda.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So now, hi everyone. We are so thrilled to be here today. We are 7 days into Be Better November, because we started on November 31st with the case panel.
October 31st.
What did I say?
November 31st.
Oh,
Not there yet.
Not there yet. Calm down. I'm excited about December. And we are super happy to be here with you and talk and reflect about a few things that started in this first week. So
We're in the studio. We're in the studio. Short live, getting better for November. That's the theme. And there's a lot of initiatives going on. So the theme of today is going through some screens, some community posts, reacting, reflecting to things that are going on for the next 10 to 15 minutes. But with the amount of screens that we actually prepared, we might as well go a little longer.
Yeah.
So this format is an experiment. We expect to do this in the beginning of Become Better November, but also at the end, do a big recap after events, conversion hotel that it's going on. So we're going to do a quick recap, but I believe, do you want to start agenda recap for us?
Yes. So let's get back to a week ago in October 31st. And it's when we officially started this incredible celebration. We had our case study panel with Deborah, Carlos, Simon, and Claire. And we had an awesome experience, and they gave some very precious tips on how to do good case studies without over-promising or under-promising, and worst of all, without harming your reputation, because that's something we can do. And my brother has the screen here. We can
I loved how LinkedIn presents live sessions these days. I was exploring this a little bit, and I just wanted to dive a little bit into comments. We have a great one here, Shiva. I'm a simple man. Shiva, it resonates with me. I'm a simple man too. I wear only black for a reason. But I see Carlos and I see Simon. Can miss this one. That's the energy. Can miss this one.
Can miss, yeah. And if you missed, you're seeing my brother's screen right now. We do have the recording. So if you didn't have the time, for example, I was at the doctor at the time, so I couldn't watch, but because of the recording, I could just sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and have some fun and learn a little bit.
And what about for the few of us that honestly, I jumped into YouTube here, 1 hour and 10 minutes, I just can't make it. So here's something that I wanted to test live. I was just talking to our friend Lorenzo Carreri, known in the industry, right? Always posting on LinkedIn. I have this monthly one-on-one with Lorenzo that we talk about product, experimentation, CRO, personal finance, investing, but also AI. So Lorenzo is doing a lot of stuff in AI, and I am actually picking up from him. Today, he brought this up, Notebook LM. And I know that you talked with Mike Taylor in this last event that we had about I never really used this. You want to share your experience before I do my test here?
Yes. So last week we went to a growth meetup here in Wrocław with the team from Growth Meetup and Bahamas. And I asked Mike Taylor about what he recommends for certain topics. And he told me that it doesn't really matter if you're not a super pro person, but he really recommended this notebook LM from Google because it's a free service. it's a great option, especially because Google has been doing a very good job with AI. So we have Gemini, who's good for data analysis.
Yeah.
And now you have this Notebook LM. And I searched a little bit and I was very impressed. So the idea for Notebook LM is it's literally a notebook, but instead of you having to take notes, you throw in the information that you need notes taken, and the system, the AI, makes the note for you.
So let's do a quick test right now. So in between meetings today, I wanted to have some sort of reaction for the case study panel. Well, I couldn't do it. So what I've done, I just plugged the link in this Notebook LM, very easy to kind of create an account as a Google product. And I see one of the questions that surfaced here that actually grabs my attention. How can CRO practitioners leverage case studies to promote learning and growth within the industry while respecting client confidentiality? Like that is the biggie,
The
right?
big
I
one.
have NDAs. What
Yeah.
do I do? So let's just see what Notebook LM like outputs. It's kind of first time experience for me playing with this. I've been deep in Claude and using the projects and knowledge base there. So I'm just playing around. Let's see what we have. A couple bullet points here. Anonymize client data, highlight the why and the how, emphasize the learning process, share process frameworks and templates, promote a culture of constructive feedback. I really like it's referencing what's happening in the video. That is quite cool. I'm not gonna go super deep on this. What happened if I click? It brings
the
me to the
video.
video, to the transcript. I need to see why the video is unavailable here, but it's super cool to keep consuming these videos in case you don't have time.
Yeah.
Just use these products to your advantage, right?
Yeah,
But
and I think this is also very interesting because if you look at the answer Notebook LM gave you, it's very similar to what I've seen Spiro doing.
oh,
So in CXL courses, when they talk about how to present data and things like that, they either show you a template with no real information, or in certain topics, they show the original report, but they cut all the information that's sensitive. And it's exactly what Notebook LM is saying, and it's exactly what we had in the live.
mhm.
And this, especially for us experimentation rookies, it's essential because that's a question I always have. I want to scream about good results and good tests we do, but how am I going to do that without having problems?
Great topic, but we have an agenda to cover.
Yes.
What's next? What do we have next in the agenda?
So next we have my dear Speak Up to Upskill and Uplevel contest. So if you've been living in a bubble and you don't know what we're talking about, we have this contest with women in experimentation called Speak Up to Upskill and Uplevel. That is basically to bring women from this community into the light, because we know that it's hard to shine in the community, and we have incredible women that don't get this opportunity to shine. So that's what it's for. And we have a few posts here that we want to talk about. I'm going to start right away. So right now you're seeing a post from, I'm going to say Gintere Forshaw. I'm not sure if it's correct. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But one thing I really loved about her post today, literally, a few meetings back, I was talking to my team about how we need to be more human-centric, exactly as she's talking about in this post. We have a wonderful brand, my client, it's a wonderful brand. It's got a lot of potential, but the website is very clean, too clean for that brand.
Minimal.
Too minimal. And
The depth of the detail.
exactly. And people don't really understand. So we had a 2-hour discussion that was supposed to be just half an hour. We went 1 hour and a half over because we can never stop talking about this. And it's important that she brought this up for all of us.
My highlight is on the screen as well. So, but a truly successful optimized customer journey goes beyond quick fixes and superficial tweaks. And that's kind of my pain with the CRO industry. Look forward, right? And now that I'm in product side, generating different like value, it's about building genuine connections with your users and demonstrating that you truly care about their experience, not just what this head of design friend of mine used to call, that the way he perceived and he challenged the CRO industry is that at some point you would open the book of tricks and you would select, what is the trick that I'm going to try today? But it's not about making this genuine connection. And honestly, like my trip to Japan earlier this year just opened my mind to hospitality. And this is a trend coming from one of the business that I'm very close to, where the general management is really looking at the hospitality industry to actually capture ideas on how to do better digital business. And it's this principle of omotenashi, right? Like I posted about this, I put a video about this earlier this year when I came back from Japan. I'll just read here, like the reminds me of omotenashi and how, right, bringing concepts from this Japanese hospitality. And for omotenashi, it's about those three principles. It's anticipate user needs, attention to the details, and celebrate the user. And this big quote that I found as I was doing my research, omotenashi is about, right, it's highlighting the importance of the guest, or translate to our experience, right? The importance of the customer, the digital reader, the user, is marked by painstaking preparation and beautiful presentation. So I'm seeing a lot of these products getting too minimal and forgetting a little bit about the packaging, the beautiful presentation, and celebrating the user. And I keep coming back to who's doing this amazingly, Duolingo, right? Anticipate the user needs, celebrate the user, attention to details, the amount of animations and attention to the packaging. It's incredible.
Yeah, the research I just finished. I was gonna present it today, but we got in a rabbit hole and you know how it goes. One of the things I wanted to say is exactly this thing. Although when we get to the end of a funnel, we're not celebrating our user for trusting us, for deciding to be with us in any way. And when you look at Duolingo, I'm not sure if you are on Duolingo. If you're not, start and connect with us. Let's be friends in Duolingo.
160 days and counting.
Yeah, me too. Yes. And yeah, but if you guess 5 right answers in a row, you have a mini celebration in between your task. Just Duo jumping in from happiness because you got 5
in a row.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's so special. That makes you want to continue.
Yeah.
And we need to start bringing this into
engagement. Yeah.
our system. Yeah.
I tested celebrating the user before. I won for engagement rate. Yeah. Empirical anecdotes. I wanted to also share another post here. So this discussion about Spotify, this has been a little bit of my example. So this was brought by, I'm going to pronounce Haliena. Let's see. Spotify brings into our community the many different experiments. Yes, Spotify is this experimentation machine, right? So podcasts, short video, even the snake game. So she shared the video of what, like this feature that they cooked about a snake game, like incredible engagement rate. I hope that they won big for time spent on feature or something along those lines. Spotify is an incredible company. I love the quote that she surfaced from Daniel Ek, the Spotify CEO, right? It's a kind of a founder-led business. Sums up perfectly. Great ideas become great products through iterations. And it's something that I see myself telling my teams. Sometimes we get into big epics where we're not going to be able to deliver the entire MVP or MLP, minimum lovable product, in the same sprint. And I try to bring things to reality that the first version is not going to be perfect. The first version will always look awkward, feel quirky, but time takes us to perfection, right?
Yeah, well, just one note on this, and for me, that's what makes us so loyal to Spotify. So, for example, right now we have a version of Spotify that I don't really love. They added a feature that I keep misclicking, and it annoys me so much. But with time, I have been loyal with them for over 10 years. In all these 10 years, I've had these experiences where, oh, this I don't love, but it's also not hampering my experience. and then 2, 3 versions after,
Yeah.
I'm in love with that and I've been using it so often. So it's exactly that. We need to iterate and find where it doesn't go right so we can make it the perfect way.
I will continue on the Spotify discussion. All right, with Positive John, there's always a little twist of stock market. And Spotify is this company that I always thought about investing. It's just that Spotify was always tested on like, can Spotify really be profitable and generate revenues when all the labels control the music industry? But in recent quarters, Spotify is finally delivering in earnings per share. So they're proving to shareholders that they're not just an experimentation machine. They can also post profits. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not, he doesn't invest on Spotify. I do. I think you should too, unless you're an Apple.
No, wait a
Apple
minute.
investor.
This is not financial advice.
This
Disclaimer.
is not financial advice, but if you believe in Spotify as much as I do, let's focus on it.
What's next?
So now we should also talk about our 15-day data challenge.
Yes, first post went live today.
Exactly. And I absolutely love the first theme of our 15-day data challenge.
Give us a gist.
So it's basically about the analysis rabbit hole.
Hmm.
Again, I just finished the research that took me over double the time I was supposed to finish it because I fell into this rabbit hole. So basically, what Sundar is saying in his post is you have a question and then you go after that question. But then when you get the answer to that question, you have another 3 questions.
Yeah.
And you start going through all of these questions. And that's not just a problem in data analysis. When I was doing my thesis in law school, I was thoroughly warned about the same trap. And in that case, I managed
Analysis rabbit hole.
Yeah, I managed to run from it. But it's very interesting to see people from like Georgiana, I love you.
First comment here.
Yeah, Georgiana, I've seen Daphne mentioning it as well, how much they think this is important. Because people who are starting in data analysis, we, like me, we think we need to do everything to perfection. But actually what he says in the post, and people agree, is you need to have a basic skeleton of questions. And then, oh, I answered this question and 3 other questions opened up. Okay, I'm gonna leave this for a future research and let's continue. So this way you continue in your focus.
Yeah, you're describing a lot on how we process, for example, the backlog for our BI team, right? It starts really what you call the skeleton is this list of analytical questions that we want to answer now. And then those questions that come after the initial investigation, they become further tickets for furthering the investigation. But for us to continue the pace of our agenda here, there's something about proving your ideas wrong that you took note here for us to react. Something from
Tyler Hudson.
Robo Boogie.
Robo Boogie. I love the name of this brand. Robo Boogie.
It sounds
fun.
right.
Yeah, it sounds right. And yeah, Tyler Hudson mentions this information about CRO is actually proving your ideas wrong. And this is basically what we do as people who look for continuous growth and learning all the time. And proving yourself wrong is a very important part of this process. So in his post, he emphasized the importance of blending data and design to have good testing approaches and understand when you're right and when you're not. And I would like to connect this post to something I learned with Erin, both in her book, by Erin's book, if you don't have it, awesome, Design for Impact. Both in her book and in the workshop I've done with her, that she was the first person who explicitly told me, you don't test to prove that you're right. You test it to prove that you're wrong. And if you have enough data, enough proof that the status quo needs to change, then you make the change. But you're not testing for that. You're testing to say, no, the way we're doing now, that's what's correct.
This reminds me my time in Cal Poly Pomona taking some elective classes on philosophy of science. And this whole concept of falsifiability, like to be science, you need to be able to falsify.
Yeah.
Like, don't quote me on the full extension here, but there's a lot of philosophy of science that is coming to the back of my mind. All this to shift focus to what Bavik was talking about.
Yes, but I think we have just to cut you very fast. I think Deborah O'Malley mentions falsifiability in one of her posts.
All connected. In the grand scheme of things, all dots are connected.
Yeah.
What do we have from Bavik talking about inversion here? You took a note, I took a note. What do you have?
So I think it's very interesting, this idea that for Bavik, we shouldn't start our thoughts when we're experimenting with what could go right, because that's our tendency. We want, like we talked, we want things to go right. We want our tests to be successful. We want to have wins. But in Bev's perspective, we need to do the opposite. What can go wrong? What can hurt the experience? What can harm the customer? And that's very good, I think, first to be more mindful about what you're testing and to keep yourself accountable of this unconscious bias we have to win.
I'm going to read here, and there are two important points that come to mind. So by inverting their thinking, experimenters can step back and assess whether optimization is the right approach to begin with, or if it might lead to diminishing returns or unintended consequences, which is what you're talking about. And the idea of unintended consequences brings me back to a learning from the first senior product manager that coached me when I was in Brain leading the growth product team there. He used to say something like this: PJ, don't test what you're afraid to build in production if it wins. This became a rule of thumb for me forever. You know, like when you start getting close to dark patterns, that you start thinking, but okay, if this wins, will I be comfortable to build this in production? This became really a rule of thumb, which is almost law of inversion. But I'll bring the right person, the right personality to talk about this. Charlie Munger, admire this investor personality forever. In this Poor Charlie's Almanac book, it's a great read if you like frameworks like myself, because this book is basically a collection of all Charlie Munger frameworks from physics, from biology, from psychology. So he used to use a lot of those building blocks of knowledge to extrapolate his thinking from investing. And the law of inversion is a core mental model from Charlie Munger. And here's a quote from the book that I really like. I was able to grab this from my Readwise. Invert, always invert. It is in the nature of things that many hard problems are best solved only when they are addressed backward. How can we grow our company? Well, leaders might also ask, what are the most common reasons companies fail? And I wish I had the Instagram reel that I crossed the other day. It's somewhere in my crazy collection of the Mr. Market. Charlie Munger addressing one of the shareholder conversations, right? The question came, but how can Apple keep growing? This was a couple, like, I don't know, 10 years ago. And he used this law of inversion, like, no, let's invert this. What are the things that will hold Apple from growing? And it was an incredible kind of inversion discussion. So I think this is big.
Yeah, I've experienced this once. So at some point this year, I was in a meeting with Johan van Tonder, my incredible CEO, and Brendan McNulty. I work with him, he's my senior strategist. And that's exactly the question Johan asked our clients. So he asked, in 6 months, what will make this project close? In 6 months, what would have caused this project to just end?
The law of inversion.
Yeah, and that was a very interesting discussion, because it's something we don't want to think about. But if we do think about these things, we're prepared, and then we're over prepared to success.
I think the next one in line is also something around the data discussions and the data challenge, MDE, something that I wanted to cover. I have a little bit of tabs to share. Two things, I believe. first one on this MDE relates to true effect, not observed effect. I didn't recall this when I first read, so it's something new that I learned. So 1% better today.
I had no idea about this.
Yeah, I don't think it changes any ways of working drastically, to be honest, or the ways my teams operate thinking about MDE when they're doing pre-test analysis.
I think it potentially changes how serious you take NDE, because if you're doing what Kelly Wortham, she taught me what we call p-hacking. It's
Yeah.
when you leave the test running until you have enough
Yeah.
significance.
Well, I expect everyone watching this live to take MDE serious to begin with.
Exactly, and this is very good, because why not p-hack? Why take pre-test analysis and MDE seriously? Because this is the only thing you can do to test true effect before the test goes live.
I'll do
So
a
that's very
quick
important.
simulation here. Things that I do and things that I talk to with my team, like there's a trade-off between MDE and test duration. Setting a low MDE allows for detection of smaller effects, yes, but requires a larger sample size. Of course, that's the trade-off. So the simulation I'm using here, Spiro A/B test calculator, used often, classic. And this data that I plugged here, I may or may not be designing an experiment in those circumstances. I don't know. I'm not gonna say yes. But what I coach my team is to think about the difficulty of a test. But this is so subjective, because what I'm gonna give you here works based on the amount of reps that I have with the team, that I know how many of the low-hanging fruits we already harvested. So there's a lot of context in this idea of the difficulty of the experiment. But I like to coach the team of, okay, if you're looking, because of the maturity of where we're at, if you're looking to get 1 to 3% MDE, it's gonna be a difficult experiment.
Yeah.
Or different. It's gonna be an easy experiment because it's not much of a lift in the metric.
Oh yeah, that's
Now, if I'm trying to look for a 10, 15% MDE, well, that's going to be a difficult experiment because we already harvested a lot of the low-hanging fruits that would move this needle this much.
Exactly.
So then, okay, now that you're thinking about the difficulty, look at this broke down by weeks, right? So in this quick example, well, if we're thinking about a medium difficulty being between 3 and 5%, while running this test in this configuration up to 4 weeks, we might be considering this a medium difficulty test. It's a lot how I coach my teams to think, to use calculators like this, to have this breakdown, the group by like MDE, group by week, right? And think through the MDE that they're targeting. Like at the end of the day, the question is, are we setting ourselves for success or failure with this test design? Will we even be able to observe the difference based on this wishful thinking MDE we have ahead of us? And that's a little bit of the reasoning, right?
Yeah, and if that's the thing, because then we have and I'm gonna try and talk about some data, but I'm fully trusting the 15-day data challenge, because I'm not great in data yet. But from what I've been learning, studying with Ruben, Kelly, with Aaron, if you have false negative, false positives, they have a certain level of issues. But equally, because you wish that has to be true, and you work on it so long, you keep it running, you try to iterate, and you implement something just because you had this wishful thinking, and you let it sit until you reach the MD that you expected, and made your way through a win, you may, one, be harming the experience, two, losing money, and three, losing time, which is even worse.
Yeah.
That's
Lucas Vermeer. I remember catching him in Delft once, and he talking about his experience with this idea of the commitment bias, as you say, right? Like we invest so much time and energy that like, no, I need to make my way through a win here. Those things happen. We've all been there.
Yeah.
Next in line, conversion hotel warm-up. So what's happening is that we'll continue all these conversations. We talked with Tom Weslin earlier today. We're going to be bringing our camera setup and continue these conversations, do a quick highlight of the event, have the face-to-face time and deep dive together. I do expect to get one breakout session there and continue a little bit of interviews. So this year, I'm really looking forward to day 2 of the conference. So what's happening in day 2? Let me find myself in my screens here. There's this topic from András, coming from Hungary, friction. Such a, right? Love the keyword. I'm looking forward. What do we have to learn about friction? But also, what is the other one here? The psychology of data. What a catchy title for a keynote that I expect to take some notes and potentially ask Tim later and connect the dots with the data challenge, everything that is happening.
Exactly.
What are you looking forward, Conversion Hotel? You're joining for the first time this year.
Yes, so I'm keen to see what all the fuss is about. I've been hearing a lot about Conversion Hotel, but I have 2, and I love going to conferences and learning from people, but I have 2 presentations that really catch my eye. Tim's Psychology of Data, because I'm diving into data as much as I can because I need to learn it. And also Abby Hughes. I think she's on day 1.
Day 1, right?
Yeah, and she's gonna talk about user research.
That's important for you.
Yes, and I've been particularly struggling with user research. I have a lot of ideas, but it's hard for me to put ideas in paper. And I'm very excited to see what she's gonna talk and potentially bring you some comments, some content as well on her feedback on how to do great quality user research.
Yeah, it's going to be an important topic for you to cover for sure. I'm looking at the clock. Vlad, we had planned for 10 minutes, and I knew that with all these screens and organic conversations, we would go over.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we have any questions from the audience. In the screen that I'm at, I cannot see any questions. Vlad, do you think you can answer that to us?
No questions as of now, but
We don't
for
have-
a great discussion.
Absolutely. If we don't have questions, we're going to go for a close because there are more meetings coming up along the day. You want to close with any special note, sister?
I have two special notes. First, if you have any questions or comments, please let us know. Participate on Convert's page. Remember that you can get an iPhone just for participating, and that's incredible.
Great hardware.
Great hardware. And let us know what you think about this event. We're very excited that this is happening. We're happy to be here. And we really want to see your thoughts, your experiences, your challenges shared with us.
Continue participating. We're expecting to do another live like this at the end. This was fun.
This is
Let's
very
collect
fun.
more tabs and more links to go through at the end.
It's gonna be a 2-hour
We're gonna
live.
also have the highlights from the event. It's gonna be fun. I mean, once again, focus on being 1% better every day. That's what I preach to everyone I know. November, be better November. Continue engaging and participating. We'll continue the discussion going. So we'll see each other in the next live a couple weeks from now.
Yeah.
That's it for today.
Yeah.